a very warm welcome to you to what's going to be a very exciting festival. We'll be exploring the possibilities of sustainable insurance growth for Namibia's future. Today, you'll see that I'm joined by three very intelligent, powerful women, and it's really an honor to have them with us as we discuss our topic for the day. So allow me to get right into today's objectives. So Ongini, Morokeni, and a warm welcome to everyone joining us today for this very special dive-in session right here in Namibia. We're very excited and delighted to have you here with us, with industry experts, industry leaders, and change makers that are dedicated to exploring the sustainable growth in Namibia's insurance sector. As mentioned, it's an honor to have you in our presence as we navigate this extremely crucial conversation. As I mentioned at the top of the call, today's event, which is exploring the possibilities in sustainable insurance growth for Namibia's future, is really more than a discussion. It's an opportunity to start the path forward for an industry that holds the potential to significantly impact the lives of all Namibians. We're really here to look at how insurance can not only provide financial security, but also drive economic resilience, innovation, and inclusive growth. As we gather here today for the first dive-in festival Namibia is ever having, we're reminded of Namibia's very unique position, rich in diversity, which is demonstrated in our speakers, rich in culture and resources, yet facing challenges that require very, very bold solutions. As we're aware, the insurance sector, with its ability to offer financial protection and stability, stands at the heart of these solutions. By embracing this digital transformation, enhancing policy frameworks, and focusing on customer-centric innovations, we can really build an inclusive and sustainable future for our industry and for our wonderful nation, Namibia. So why is Dive-In coming to Namibia at this very particular time? As we talked about, the insurance sector globally is facing a pivot, like many industries, grappling with the impacts of climate change, rapid technological advancements, and the ever-evolving customer and consumer needs. Namibia, as small as it might be, is no different, yet it presents a very unique opportunity to reimagine what insurance can be. So we're here now because more than ever, we need to foster an environment where innovation meets purpose, where industry leaders collaborate like we are today with regulators, and where inclusivity is more than just a buzzword, it's a business imperative. Dive-In is committed to driving meaningful change by elevating discussions around diversity, equity, and inclusion, by supporting the insurance sector's efforts to be more accessible and impactful. So today, we have a couple of objectives, and the focus of today will be to talk about the challenges and opportunities facing Namibia's insurance sector. We'll explore how digital transformation can open new doors. We'll talk about what the role of the government is in shaping enabling policy. And we'll also talk about how tailored insurance products can meet the diverse needs of Namibians. So without any further ado, do allow me to introduce my wonderful speakers, and I'd love for you to say hi after I speak about who you are. So the lady in red, Patty Karuaihe-Martin, and who is an influential leader in the insurance and finance sector. Patty serves as the president of the Africa Insurance Organization and is very deeply involved in promoting sustainability and professional development across the industry. Join me in welcoming, with a virtual round of applause, Patty Karuaihe-Martin. Please say hi, Patty.
Hi, Lehlé, and hi to the audience. We're looking forward to this very historic moment.
Amazing. Great to have you with us. And another lady in red is Suzan Pardesi. Suzan is the head of energy underwriting at ASR with extensive expertise in industry complexities and sustainable practices. Her unique background as a chemical engineer enhances her ability to speak on tailored insurance solutions for Namibia's energy sector. Very warm welcome to you, Suzan.
Hello, everyone. It's an absolute honor, and thank you very much for the invite.
Absolutely. And last but certainly not least is Vivian Ojo. Vivian is a seasoned expert in international development and finance with a proven track record in strategic delivery and human capital development. She brings a global perspective on how digital transformation can expand insurance access in Namibia, and Vivian is currently pursuing her PhD at Columbia University in the United States. So welcome to you, Vivian. A very warm welcome to you all, ladies.
Thank you. Lovely to meet everybody. And apologies, I didn't get the memo about the red, but I'm very, very happy to be among captains of industry.
Absolutely. So without any further ado, shall we get into it, ladies? Great. So I've given a bit of introduction around the insurance sector and, what the gaps and challenges currently are. And Vivian, I'd love to start with you. Just with your background, and your understanding of the policy environment in Namibia, as well as with digital transformation. To you, I'd really want to understand how you think that Namibia's insurance sector can leverage digital transformation to reach the underserved markets and enhance service delivery.
Thanks so much, Lehlé. I really like this question. We're just coming off the back of a quantum technologies event that I was privileged to moderate with the Minister of Information and Technology, as well as the Netherlands government. And every time I sort of talked about that event, the first thing people asked is, with the degree of sort of digital divide that we have in Namibia, should we really be thinking about quantum technology? Shouldn't we be more focused on just, making sure people have access to the very basics? And I think the response kind of links very much to this question, which is to say, rather than thinking of things sequentially at all times, let's actually see if there are any opportunities for us to leapfrog, right? If there are any opportunities for us to get involved in like the cutting edge technology and use that to help us get some of the steps that we might have missed. I think for me in the insurance industry, this is another sort of opportunity that we could have to do so, right? And we don't need to look far for examples of microinsurance platforms that are actually digital and that they're integrating sort of mobile applications, like you have MTIBA in Kenya, lots of sort of cross-border payment digital apps and I would say innovations, right? That young people really are bringing for us to use kind of the technology that we have to leap forward ahead. And I think for Namibia, with such a sort of low penetration in terms of insurance, well, not really lower than most in the African continent, but certainly lower than it could be, and where there's a lot of potential there. I think that it's sort of time for us to start thinking quite creatively and innovatively about how we can use and leverage some of these platforms. So I think it's a really exciting discussion, and I don't want to belabor the point, but what I would say is people like Patty and Suzan, who have been working in the insurance industry for a long time, being willing to have a conversation like this and saying, how do we open up the space? How do we make sure it's more inclusive is sort of the first step. And then we really need to tie back the technology using AI and machine learning. And then also, I think, customizing what it is that we need. I was reading the other day a report around sort of agricultural risk, which is something that I don't think we think about so much. And I don't want to show my head-on-ness too much, but I think, as cattle farmers, as people who are consistently sort of dependent on the land and crop farmers as well, there is actually an opportunity for us to actually customize insurance and insurance products to add value to the local industries that we have, and not feel like we have to follow the sort of sequential path that other organizations and other countries have. So yeah, I think this is the right question and the right space for us to dive into this.
All right. To dive in. Thank you so much, Vivian. So Patty and Suzan, as the experts in the insurance sector in Namibia, would you be open to giving us a little bit of an overview and a bit of a baseline? And what are we working with currently in the industry? Patty, please go first, and Suzan, you can follow up.
Okay. Thank you so much. Today is indeed a historic moment for Namibia to showcase to the world what Namibia has to offer. And although you're saying we are small, we are actually quite big in terms of space. So, but in terms of population, it's the only number that's a bit small. Yes, today I want to say that if one look at the current state of the insurance sector in Namibia, we can proudly say the insurance market in Namibia has been experiencing significant growth and development in recent years. In 2023-2024, the Namibian insurance sector is navigating significant transitions shaped by regulatory changes, economic challenges, and technological advancement. The customer preferences in the insurance market in Namibia are shifting towards more personalized and tailored insurance products that cater for individual needs and preferences. And I think Vivian has referred to that we have to start looking at parametric insurance, specific products for our agricultural sector. So that's very exciting, and I can say that we are looking at such products and how we can develop such products with our government. Namibia is indeed a robust financial sector. The gross written premiums of Namibian insurance sector for the year 2023 was around 15.9 billion, which Namibian dollars, and if you convert that to US dollars, we're talking about around 950 million US dollars. That is quite a significant amount if one compared to the rest of Africa. And we are proudly saying that over the next 2024 to 2028, we're expecting a CAGR rate of more than 8%. So I think that is showing you that there is constantly going to be growth, and there are specific areas that are showing the key trends, which is obviously one of the most important ones is the Namibia insurance sector is increasingly integrating digital technologies to streamline operations, enhance customer. The regulatory environment is also remains highly regulated with ongoing adjustments to the legislative framework. And then thirdly, also the market growth and opportunities are huge, although we are currently facing a slow growth. Obviously, we have some inflation growth as well.
Sorry, Patty. Oh, sorry, Patty. I'm sorry. Can our guests trying to mute themselves? Because it's getting hard to hear. It's not deep. Please mute yourself. Okay, thank you. All right, Patty, apologies about that. Suzan, would you like to pick up where, oh, I think she's back. Would you like to finish your thoughts? And then Suzan, I would love to get your baseline analysis before we continue. Thank you. So the floor is yours, Patty.
Yes, so I think I will then conclude that yes, the Namibian insurance sector is indeed on a growth. We are showing significant growth, and with the new industries that are coming to Namibia in terms of oil and gas and hydrogen and many others, we are seeing that Namibia insurance sector will continue grow. And as a reinsurance sector from our side, we are also gearing ourselves up to make sure we can retain certain of these, to have local participation in whatever products that we are developing in order for the growth to also take place in Namibia itself before we take it out to the rest of the world. So we indeed looking forward to continue what Namibia insurance sector has shown, that we are a force to be reckoned with. And today, in terms of looking into the diversity, Namibia is a very diverse country. We have quite a wide range of, we have over 22 dialects and over 14 regions. And we always strive towards making sure that we have an inclusive financial sector for everyone. And I think as we go on, we will also elaborate on how mobile technology and G5 technologies are making it possible for the insurance sector to expand its products. So at this moment, I'll just close off here.
Thank you very much, Patty. You make wonderful points. And I do agree that Namibia is big in its own way, and we definitely look forward to what's more to come. So thank you for making that point. Suzan, would you like to give us a baseline analysis of your understanding of the current insurance sector in Namibia?
Yes, thank you. Certainly. So, I mean, Namibia certainly has a unique landscape and presents both challenges and huge opportunities, as Patty touched on, for insurance. And the insurance sector has a vital role to play in fostering inclusion and financial protection for everyone. I mean, insurance does play a role in fostering a stable business environment, supports sectors like agriculture, mining, energy, and promotes economic development for all. It ensures that individuals and businesses can manage risks from unforeseen events, such as natural disasters. And as we go on, I will very briefly touch on leveraging technology to bridge the gap. Things like micro insurance that's already been mentioned, tailoring insurance needs, and current insurance covers that we can already provide, such as parametric insurance for agriculture. But of course, I think the insurance sector as a whole really thrives by embracing differences and creating equitable opportunities for everyone, and serving diverse clients. And really the aim should be of the insurance sector to serve diverse clients with integrity and understanding for all.
Absolutely. Suzan, I couldn't have said that better myself. I think what you're speaking to is inclusion and creating products with the end user in mind. I think too many times products are created from people's comfortable offices with AC, but they're not necessarily thinking about the villager or the farmer who may have a need for a different type of insurance product. So I'm so glad that you talked about that, because inclusion goes beyond what we normally think about, which is gender, sometimes race. It extends down to, ability or disability. It extends down to socio-economic power. So I'm so grateful that you raised those very important points. So Patty, I'd love to come back to you on this one. As we know, we all need various stakeholders to reach any goal, right? So both private, public sector. For you, what role does the government play in supporting digital innovation in the finance and the insurance sectors? And do you have any thoughts on how policy frameworks can be improved to encourage growth within the sector?
Thank you so much for that very important question. You will agree with me, the government absolutely plays a crucial role in supporting digital innovation in the finance and insurance sectors, primarily through regulation, infrastructural development, and providing an enabling environment for innovation. So well-designed policy frameworks obviously can foster growth, increase financial inclusion, and enhance service delivery. So those are key. Now, for us, in order for us to function as an insurance industry, we need proper policy and regulatory frameworks in order to function within a proper setup. So that is where government comes in. Now, with regard to the regulatory frameworks, where government comes in, they specifically, if I speak on the Namibian side, they definitely work through our regulator, which is NAMFISA. Through them, they obviously make sure that policy frameworks, they set the policy, and then obviously regulator make sure they regulate the industry accordingly. So what our insurance regulator has done in order to support this is that they have set up what is called a fintech square. That is our regulator, is NAMFISA. So it's an innovation station that hosts the regulatory sandboxes and explores the concepts and evolution of the fintech in Namibia's non-banking financial sector. So it connects NAMFISA to innovators, consumers, industry players, and regulators who are leading in technological and digital transformation. So this contributes to national efforts to create a vibrant, safe, and supportive financial sector for innovators to thrive in. As you are all aware, when you normally the fintechs and the insurtechs, the small players cannot, within the normal setup, just start to put out their products, as there are normally regulatory restrictions. So like in many African countries, Namibia is experiencing increasing urbanization and digitization. So at the same time, according to the World Bank, it lags behind its peer countries in the adoption of digital technologies, despite having a mature telecommunication market. We can proudly say that our CREN, which is the regulatory body, our state-owned enterprise that is supporting government, they will be launching our 5G anytime soon in the next year. So the activation, for instance, in Namibia, we also have activated the coastal city of Swakopmund in just June last year, the Google Equano subsea cable, now which connects South Africa and Europe. And this is obviously digital connectivity between Namibia and the rest of Southern Africa and the wider world. And I think we have experienced, there was a time where it was off and we could feel the impact that it's having. Now, these are all efforts that our government is doing in order to make sure that the regulatory frameworks are set there, and so that we as an insurance sector can obviously be there and be efficient. So the regulatory frameworks, the other items that I also would like to mention is the support for fintechs and insure startups. Like I've just said, government has created these sandboxes. We need to also, in Namibia, we're also looking at changing our traditional regulations, which currently are maybe not as supportive to the new way of doing things, especially like in data privacy, digital identity, and mobile money. Governments are currently updating and adapting regulations to facilitate digital innovation while maintaining consumer protection and industry stability. The improvements that you are asking about, for instance, with regard to this, is obviously government will be required to be ahead of the game and to fast track licensing processing for digital first insurance and financial service providers. Another important one that I can foresee coming is open banking and insurance APIs. Mandating open banking and insurance standards would allow for sharing of customer data between financial institutions and fintech and insurtech companies, obviously with customer consent. And this will be fostering innovation and competition. And this is the future of insurance, because this will obviously also lead to the pricing of individual customer your individual insurance costing will be based on what you can afford and what you can do. So yes, then we also have another important aspect is that government is laying the foundation, is also on consumer protection and education. That is key, data privacy and security regulations. It is very important that our data should be at all times protected, because as you are aware that the future is data. Data is becoming more and more important for us as in the insurance sector. For anything that we can do, you need data in order to do your pricing. And for that, we also need to protect the customer data on the other hand. So that is the function of government, to make sure through the regulator that they set proper procedures and proper frameworks that protect the customer and that also protect the insurance sector. But together, I think at the end of the day, we can achieve, if both are coming to the table, and we can achieve quite a lot. I think financial and digital literacy, there's the other key, because you will find in certain countries, we are fortunate in Namibia that our life book is quite huge, but it's because of the education that people has gotten as to the benefit of why you should have life cover. But I know there are other countries like Nigeria and many others where it's absolutely a no to maybe take a life policy on someone's life. So it's always a culture. The culture is very important and it comes in there. So that's why it's very important when you are setting out products that you make sure that your cultures also relates to these products and that they are talking to them, and together with the new way of having digital technology to be the enabler, it becomes more and more easier to make sure that we are able to reach also to the underreached markets. So the improvement there.
Yes. So I'll stop you there, and then we'll get into some of these details later. Thank you very much. It sounds like you have a lot of confidence in the Namibian government's ability to support the sector, so that's always great. And then I'm also glad that you talked about financial inclusion and just how diverse some of these products need to be able to reach various people. But we will come back to the very important points that you were making. I would love to come to you, Suzan, because you work in the energy sector. We know that across the African continent, that's one of the sectors that needs the most development. We still have so many members of our populations that do not have access to energy, and that trickles down to so many aspects of their lives, from kids not being able to have educate themselves because they don't have access to energy to varying degrees. So from the energy sector perspective, how can insurers develop tailored products that meets the diverse needs of Namibia's population, particularly when it comes to rural and remote access in the energy industry?
That's a very interesting question. So, in the past, we've utilized coal, and there's been there's now, because of the ESG requirements, there's been a huge diversification into the renewable sector. Now, the renewable sector is now going to, and has grown incredibly in the African space. And also there is a lot of investment into Namibia on the renewable side. So I think we've mentioned technology, so there's a lot of new technology within renewables, and we really need to access the rural and remote areas through technology to bridge these underserved regions. So mobile platforms, digital apps, and can offer rural communities access to insurance products. And these insurance products also include the energy products. So where there's a solar energy startup or a small community wind project, the technology would allow these companies to access insurance that covers critical equipment and infrastructure without the need for a physical presence. There's development within the solar sector within mini grid systems as well for remote regions, and the insurance for those very small plants should be accessible, and that is done through online platforms, one of which, in fact, ASR are creating at the moment to allow that diversification and access to capacity, and a capacity and risk transfer mechanism for the energy space. We've also got other tailored insurance products, such as you've got the supply chain insurance, liability insurance, that would be for environmental stability, and that would provide environmental cleanup costs, again, specifically for energy, but also other industries as well, and third-party claims that would arising from pollution or contamination events. Patty mentioned earlier on, there's a huge oil and gas discovery in Namibia. So, you've got the business interruption, property damage covers. Also, something to consider to keep capacity within the company, within the country, would be captive insurance products for very large insurers. And of course, you've got the parametric insurance covers that you could use for agriculture, any ESG related events such as natural disasters. You could cap the price of electricity with parametric insurance, and all these covers give the lenders a lot of opportunity to invest in Namibia. It gives them a safety net to invest in Namibia. And really there needs to be an understanding about the products, and I think the insurers themselves need to be more vocal and educate the local community and customers to the benefits of these products.
Thank you, Suzan. I think you really illustrated the way in which the uniqueness of products makes a difference depending on the sector and depending on the need. Vivian, I'd love to come to you. As a millennial, there's always a conversation around how do we get the youth involved? How do we get young people to think insurance is a necessity and that it's something that they should invest their money in? So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that. Yeah, I think I could still qualify as a millennial, not the Gen Z yet. So we'll have to get some Gen Z people on here to speak on their behalf. But I do really like that question. And I think, Patty, I love that you mentioned, sort of open banking, right? Like as a point of access, because the engagement that we're going to get from young people in insurance depends on sort of how much value they believe they can get from other products sort of linked to the insurance product. So I think this idea of sort of aggregating and connecting insurance with other things that people need is really a good place to start. I was thinking about there's a telemedicine app called Babylon Health that has launched in Rwanda. It's a small sort of initiative, but what they're really doing there is saying, is there one place that I can go for all my medical needs, all my insurance needs, that's all integrated and clear and easy to use. So I think the way in which we can engage young people in this space is showing them that it's not just as simple as life insurance. There's non-life products showing them that, there's so much within insurance that's sort of connected. I love the mention also of just like data and insurance information showing, to individuals how we can kind of use this for risk assessment as well, and sharing with other industries, right? So I think for me, that's going to be sort of a key opening to get more young people involved. And then the second thing I think is really conversations like this, right? I think it's exceptional to see, women, right, who are excited and leaders in this space, right? And just to go back again to the sort of quantum conversation I was having, there were women on the panel, right? In an area, I think, where we tend to see this as, a male-dominated environment. I think when we have these kinds of conversations that are looking a little bit more pink and more different than people are used to, I do think that does get young people wondering and excited. So I think it's building products that are interesting and useful, and products that have reach, and then also thinking about exciting ways to amplify the conversation.
No, absolutely, Vivian. I know it doesn't get lost on me that the insurance sector doesn't look like this. So this is quite historical. And also the fact that Aon, found it important. Aon is actually one of the largest insurers, is the largest insurer in the UK. And the fact that they value diversity of this kind, I think is wonderful. And Vivian, you bring up some interesting points on how we can include Gen Zs and we can include millennials and young people into this conversation. And I think the obvious answer is always technology, like let's use tech, and tech is great. But let's be honest, a lot of people have trust issues when it comes to financial products, when it comes to insurance, because to their reasoning, there have been horror stories of people trusting institutions, trusting that their money will be safe. And unfortunately, a lot of the times that's not the case. So my next question is for both Suzan and Patty. As we've talked about, Patty, financial literacy, financial inclusion, how can the insurance industry work to, towards building trust with the consumer base? Because that is a challenge that the industry is currently facing. So I would love for Patty and Suzan to perhaps debate that or just discuss that. Please go ahead, Patty and Suzan, the floor is yours.
Patty, would you like to start?
And you can start, it's okay.
Oh, okay. You're quite right in that, at the moment, many people rely on traditional support, and they're unfamiliar with the benefits of insurance. We do need, and we have developed over time, a more stringent regulatory framework around insurance. And it's really, again, all about financial education, introduction to affordable insurance products, like micro insurance products, and leveraging data platforms. And with that, allowing the people that actually buy the products to have more control over the products. There has to be collaboration between governments and private sectors to foster innovation and make insurance more accessible and relevant. The education needs to start from the home into the schools for for us really to change the mindset of people, of youngsters, the younger generation. And, you know, the younger generation now are demanding social responsibility from companies. So we can't get away with smokes and mirrors anymore. So the more data we have, the more information we have, the more analysis we can actually do and provide to our customers. I think that we can utilize and to their benefit, we would be able to put a more cost-effective product to them.
Yes, thank you so much, Suzan. If I can maybe just add to what you are saying, it is actually very simple and very plain. We shouldn't make it too difficult. I think for us to get the trust from our communities and our the young population is to make sure that the insurance industry and the regulators they need to collaborate in several ways and build consumer trust and improve, and that automatically will also improve financial literacy. This can be achieved by working together. We can create more transparent, inclusive, and accessible insurance market, which will enhance consumer confidence and awareness. Now, such collaborations could be anything from, I think Suzan has mentioned, collaborative educational programs, make the message simple, make it clear, simple language, make them understand your policies and your concepts. There shouldn't be anything hidden in the policy that you only pick up the moment you are putting in a claim. And I think another important one is financial literacy integration in schools and communities. We can set up, make sure that the education is done at from a very young. The communities are engaged, and the population, and you've seen there's a Gen Z, those are very active, and I think if one also encourage them through fintech and insurtech to make sure they develop apps, or like encourage them to make apps that are relevant for them as to what do they need. It's no more as to what is it that I can sell to the market. It's more what do they need. So we need to make sure that we understand the markets that we are operating in, we understand the cultures that we are operating in, and make sure that they buy into what we selling to them. But I think a most important one is to have ultimately a transparent claim settlement process, because insurance is you buy trust. And trust you cannot feel. The only time you actually get to feel and see it is at claim stage. Now, you don't want to get to claim stage, and it's when you now start to do your underwriting as an insurer. You have to make sure also you do your insurance claim right at the when you do your insurance underwriting. Make sure you have all your whatever you need to have in line, and then when it comes to claim stage, that you make sure that you can build that trust. When I put in my claim, it's now not the time that you're asking me, oh, but this and this should have been in place. So that thing will create the trust that we need. It will create, and then I think another important aspect is for us to start creating products as what our communities are in need of. In order to this will also be beneficial to the insurance sector in the sense that obviously the rest of Africa, like we have said, South Africa is the highest when it comes to penetration rate. They have double digits. Namibia is second to that. We are following South Africa, but it's still not good enough. We want to improve that as well, that it should still increase. But then the rest of Africa together is so small. We always talk about the 3% curse. And I think that's something that if we start really focusing on these small, where will it make impact? And I think Vivian has mentioned that we need to start looking at the agricultural insurance sector. What is it? How can we assist that sector more? How can we make it? And here I can say that in our insurance sector as a collective, we are indeed looking at ways in making insurance more affordable by working with the African Development Bank through an effort that we started through the Nairobi Declaration, where we come together as an insurance sector to look for climate change and especially when disasters strike, that we can, as an insurance sector, protect the small scale farmers. So we are looking at products that can be that can service that market, and I think it's more initiatives like that that will buy in more trust from our communities.
I mean, that's just really spot on. I think both you and Suzan have highlighted some very important points. It also just brings me to thinking about we're talking about DEI, the diversity in the product itself. It can go down to the types of languages that you are doing the marketing in, right? So not everybody speaks English. Other people speak other languages. So having that in different languages, having it in language that people can understand. I think what happens is that we often just have rhetoric that just scares people away. But I think if it was broken down into easily digestible language, it may have a greater adoption rate from young people. And I really would love to talk about this cultural insurance that we're talking about. If you look at other places in Africa, West Africa, North, when you think of insurance, it's almost as if there's a cultural sensitivity around it, because it talks about the finality of life, or that something can go wrong, or that something negative could happen, and you need to prepare for the worst. And I think some people shy away from that because it's not a positive way of thinking, right, for them. So while we understand that, I think that the four of us on this call understand that it's probably best to have measures in place in case emergencies happen, because they can happen to anyone. So my question to you is, how do we break down these cultural nuances that often, are life or death situations simply because folks were not, properly informed as to the benefits of these products? So how do we break these cultural barriers, especially for, the people in rural areas, in our villages? These are like our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers. How do we break those cultural barriers? Vivian, you can start, and Patty and Suzan can chip in.
Sure. I think it's a really good question, and I think it's probably worth a lot of money, whoever figures that one out, because indeed, as was mentioned by Suzan, right, the potential in this space is huge. I think it comes down probably to, I think, two things. One is language. I think how we talk about what insurance can do for individuals is super important. Lehlé, you mentioned it, right? So the language we speak in, but also how we simplify the communication around it, and how we soften it, right? How we shift it from sort of preparing for the worst to sort of being wise, and shift it from sort of thinking about death to sort of thinking about the life of those who are left behind. I think it's a lot of sort of shifting the way in which we talk about insurance, and I think it's also probably the second point is customization, which I think I'm sounding a bit like a sort of a broken record, but this sort of customization comes from listening to what the individuals need, and understanding that everyone's needs are different, and so if we're sort of trying to market a product in agriculture, we're reminding the farmer of his last drought, right? And we're reminding the individual of the last time that they needed this kind of support and weren't able to get it. And so it's really about having a conversation with the customer. I saw an interesting model the other day. It was by Fred Swannaker. He was talking about how businesses should be structured. And he said, instead of having the CEO at the top, and having everyone else sort of CEO, then senior manager, then employee. We need to flip it. And at the top needs to be the customer, right? And so we need to think, okay, what does the customer need? And whoever is closest to the customer, even if that's a more junior manager, we actually need to listen to them and see what their decision-making capacity and capability is. And then they sort of, get served by the manager. And that manager is in fact served by the senior manager who's served by the CEO. And someone said, well, what about the shareholders? And I said, well, it's a good question, but shareholders want value, and value comes from customers. So if we can start to sort of flip it a little bit in our heads and start to see that at the end of the day, we're really trying to serve human beings who have real needs, and have a good sense of what it is that they need. And so we need to have conversations with them. I see a question in the chat anyway, but we'll probably get to those. But I think, the question around how does the average Namibian get plugged in to the insurance space, it speaks to that. It's having those direct conversations with individuals. I think that's.
Absolutely. I love, the shifting of mindset that we need to adopt. Suzan, do you have any thoughts on that?
It's quite a wide question. I've been in the insurance industry for a very long time now, and when I first started, it was very, very male dominated, for instance, and things have come a long way since then. Now, to provide customization and tailored products, we need to change and have been changing, which is why, what D&I is all about. The internal culture of insurance before we can customize for any particular products. Accountability internally is incredibly important. And, companies are now being asked publicly to report on DE&I goals, and equality, diversity, leadership, as you'd mentioned, and we then really need to embrace these values and then form the products that we're going to put out there to the rest of the community. The emphasis really is on making sort of long-term, meaningful changes, and that address the root causes of inequality. If we can do it internally within the insurance sector, we will be able to create better products for people outside that we serve. And it's not just about, we're talking about life and death. It's now more than that. It's about well-being. It's about health, neurodiversity, the socio-economic status. So it's you have to really adapt that in the core of your organization to make any product that you're trying to sell far more meaningful and successful in the long term for all.
Thank you very much, Suzan. Very wise words there. Patty, anything in closing?
Yes, I think what I would like to add there, it's also been said, it's a very, very, very important, and it's all into our product diversifications. Insurers are currently increasingly using technology to streamline operations and offer personalized products to reach a wider audience. So for us, in order to cater for those consumers, as insurers, we need to diversify our product offerings beyond the traditional insurance products. And we need to go that extra mile to say, companies, we are introducing coverages for emerging risks such as climate change or damages. And here is also the way you're selling it from the insurance perspective and also the other way. And that is what we have also looked at, once again, as the NDSI is for instance, on loss and damage, which is very topical in terms of, it started at COP27, COP28, it becomes a reality. And we proudly can say now there's a loss and damage funds been established. And I think Africa will definitely benefit from this. But what comes through here is that it's where, and this one is actually, it brings in another SDG, which is partnerships, where you get collaboration from government. You will have the insurance sector, and also like I said now, the African Development Bank, also the development banks involved. What we want to say there is that when you look at the loss that the African communities are experiencing, it's not just then the economic loss, it's also the non-economic loss. And unfortunately, that normally the full protection gap is on the governments. They normally need to restore what communities are losing when there's disaster. But the insurance sector, we are looking at products, and through loss and damage funds that will be made available, we want to see how we as an insurance sector can provide cover to the communities where they normally, when you lose on the economic value and you have to move, you have to migrate, for instance, there's a flood, you don't take your cultural belongings with, you just make sure you take yourself with, and there's always a loss of culture there. And I think this is what we want to also make sure in the future those are covered. And once you start to create that value and trust amongst the communities, I think insurance penetration in Africa will definitely increase.
I love that, Patty. And I think that closes us out quite nicely. I do have a last question for you all. And that would be, if you had a magic wand, let's say that you were, directing the universe and you had a magic wand, what would you change about the insurance sector in Namibia in under a minute? And I'll start with you, Suzan.
What would I change? That from the insurance sector, it would be transparency and leaving the world in a better place for the next generation to come, so we can look back at us at ourselves and hold our heads up high and say, yes, we weren't just taking money, it wasn't just a financial institution, we were out there to assist and make a difference in the community for all.
I love that. You definitely seem to be someone who has everyone's best interest in mind. You said, insurance for all, I think about 5 times in this webinar. I love your enthusiasm. Thank you so much for that. Patty, if you had a magic wand, what would you do?
Yes, the magic I would want for Namibia insurance sector is, I think for us, we have been very fortunate to have had DIVE in Namibia this year. And hopefully we, many of our people is logged in and they have seen the value. And for me, what I would want is that we can create a more diverse, equitable and inclusive communities going forward, and that the insurance sector in Namibia become just what we are saying it should be. Like I said, we've got a very robust insurance sector, but it has been mentioned that we don't have enough women, we don't have enough youth. If we can, and we just don't have enough of all the representation of Namibia, for instance, and in the rest of the Africa, because we are a pan-African Namibia that exists. So if we can create an inclusive insurance industry that are going to serve the population to the best of our needs, that will be definitely something close to my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that. And I definitely hope that all our wishes come true. And last but not least, Vivian.
I think so. My first job ever was at Old Mutual, and it was in the insurance team there and group scheme, and it was my first brush with that, working with sort of Otto Makamba and Martha Marora. I was super young, completely unclear about what I was doing on an average day. But I had people around me who were willing to pour into me, who were willing to explain concepts to me. My magic wand would be that every single stakeholder that, right from the insurers to the regulators, every single person connected to the industry was committed to pouring into the next generation, pouring into someone else, and was just able to dedicate an additional bit of time, a bit of effort, because I think that really we don't need anything external. We have everything that we need already within us to make a change, and it's just about activating that. So more activators, that would be my magic wand wish.
I love that. Thank you also very much for sharing your magic wands. I'll definitely take those notes and send them out so that we can ensure that this comes true. So we have come to the end of the formal portion of the session. What will happen next is that we'll take a little bit of a short break, and we'll take questions from the audience. So in case anybody wants to take a bit of a breather, wants to, take a nature break, I'll ask the speakers to come back in 2 minutes. And I did want to, before we take that break, I did want to speak a little bit about, the reason why we are here today. And really it's thanks to a company and organization called Aon. And they are, like I mentioned earlier, the largest insurance broker in the United Kingdom, and have really played a very pivotal role in shaping the future, the present of the insurance sector. I haven't come across a company that is so committed to driving DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, doing so with a focus on youth engagement, with a focus on encouraging the next generation of young people to consider careers in insurance. They're focused on closing the gender gap, and particularly advocating for more women in executive roles. So I really wanted to take the time to, give a shout out to Aon, and to really recognize their efforts in this insurance sector that we find ourselves in. One of those women who's really doing an amazing job and is at a senior level of management is Mary Alade. And we worked with her on this program. So we wanted to just showcase to the young people out there that there's a place for you in insurance. You need to just, as Vivian said, explore, find people that are willing to pour into you. Reach out to Aon, reach out to Mary, ask questions, reach out to our panelists, because truly and really, it's by having young people in the sector that more young people will tend to adopt insurance. So I just wanted to leave it at that. So I'll leave the speakers, please kindly come back in 2 minutes. You can turn off your cameras and come back. And, we'll play a little bit of some, trivia with the audience while you take a bit of a break. So I'll let you do that right away. So audience members, I know that you have questions. We're getting to them very shortly, but we thought, since it's the first time that we are in Namibia, would love to ask some trivia questions to the audience. So I feel like these are super easy, especially because our audience is mainly Namibian. So I'll start with the first easy question. What is the capital of Namibia? So we have 4 options: Swakopmund, excuse my pronunciation, Walvis Bay, Gobabis, or Windhoek. So if you have the answer to that, you can put it in the chat. We have other questions, fun facts about Namibia. I'm not sure if any of you guys knew this, but the world's oldest desert happens to be in Namibia. It's called the Namib Desert, which is over 55 million years old. Wow, 55 million years. That's a huge time frame. And it actually makes it the oldest desert in the world. So if you're ever in the area, definitely go to Namibia to check that out. Namibia, as many of us know, is a combination of earth and sea line, which is rare and very beautiful. It's very well known for its coast that's called the Skeleton Coast, which is famous for its treacherous fog and shipwrecks. The name comes from the many whale and seal bones that once lined the shore, as well as shipwrecks that dot the coast. And also about the country's population that we've discussed earlier. Namibia is actually the second least densely populated country in the world after Mongolia, which I think that's a pretty cool fact. I had no idea that it was the second largest, least populated country in the world. So let me know what you think about those facts, and then definitely please put your answers in the chats regarding our questions around the capital city of Namibia. So if you have that answer, please be sure to put it in. So for the tech team, I'd love to talk about the reverse mentoring now. So if you could put up that slide, that would be wonderful. Thank you so very much to everyone that's put this event together. It's really wonderful to have this event in Namibia, and I'm really grateful to see all the perspectives that we have coming in from the audience. That's truly wonderful. So I'd love to talk about reverse mentoring, which is an initiative by Dive-In this year. And essentially, there'll be a huge focus on mentoring the next generation of leaders. And after a successful inaugural run in 2023, the Dive-In reverse mentoring program is back. Essentially, it offers a unique opportunity for senior leaders to mentor junior team members to learn from each other across global locations. It's essentially an initiative that breaks communication barriers related to rank, seniority, and generational differences, fostering professional development and diversity. So essentially, this program has been enjoyed by 185 participants from 15 countries, holding nearly 100 hours of mentoring. We all know how important mentoring is to the development of one's career. And essentially, you meet with your mentor or mentee every 6 months, and you discuss topics such as mental health, technology, diversity, and inclusion. So if you're interested in this experience and being mentored, please definitely look at the opportunity on the screen, and please do apply to be part of this mentoring opportunity. Thank you so very much for that. So if I could ask our speakers to slowly come back onto the stage, we'll be back in a minute. So I'll
Yes, I am.
perfect. Please kindly turn on your video. Wonderful about Namibia. I kind of feel like that question about what's the capital city was an easy one. But if you have the answer, please put it in the chat. So we have a lot of questions that came in. It's obvious that the ladies that are here with us have sparked the interest of the young people that are listening in. The first question is for you, Patty. Hi, Patty. It's an honor to have you speak. I'm currently exploring Pan-African roles, and Namibia seems like an interesting country to start with. Unfortunately, insurance isn't the first thing at the top of mind for young people under the ages of 30. How can people like myself carve a career path in insurance in Namibia, working for notable organizations like Namibri? So over to you, Patty. That's a direct question for you as to how to get a job with you.
Yes.
So please answer well.
Thank you so much. Yes, you shouldn't be feeling bad that insurance has not been, if I hear correctly, you said it has not been on the top of the list, or are you saying it has been on the top of the list? What yeah, but okay.
It was about the top of the list. How can people like herself carve out a career path working in insurance in Namibia?
Okay. No, thank you so much. I think, like I've earlier mentioned, that we have a very robust financial sector in Namibia, very well developed. I think we are now moving towards that very, very important level of embracing Pan-African insurance experts to come on board and join us in Namibia. We're very much open to that. So what I would encourage you to definitely look out, and especially, like I said, there's those insurance fields that are opening up in terms of the skill set that is required of the new industries that are upcoming. And we can proudly say that currently our Namibia Investment Board, they are looking at how they can get working visas for people like yourself, as long as you are professional and you want to come work in Namibia. So those options are being engaged and being assessed through our government as we speak. And hopefully within the next year or two, we will be able to host or welcome many of you who want to join the sector. But I'm sure, taking into account that where we are now, yes, we are moving into that. In the past, most probably Namibians, we did not have many people from outside joining Namibia, but it's very good to see that there is such interest, and especially if you look at institutions like Namibia Reinsurance, the future is for us. We also grow. We are growing our footprint outside of Namibia, so we definitely will employ in the near future young professionals from the rest of Africa and the rest of the world. So I would say just be open and make sure that you follow our links, our social medias, and when you see the opportunity, you grab it because it's definitely opening up.
Absolutely, we love that, and I must say, globally, we've seen that Namibia is taking the steps to be a country that works with the Namibian spirit, but also can compete on the global level. And I've been seeing various news stories coming out of Namibia, so I must commend the government for those kinds of initiatives. That's really truly wonderful. So thank you for that answer. And Vivian, we have a comment here for you as well. Hi, Vivian, great points you've made so far, and quite love your enthusiasm about Namibia. Quick one, given your experience working at the Global Fund and now taking up a PhD at Columbia, how do you think insurance companies in Namibia can play their part in driving more youth engagement and providing more opportunities?
Great, yeah, thanks for that question. I mean, I think it's a lot of what we've talked about, right, in terms of the sort of technology that needs to be employed. But I mean, I think I have some concrete examples from across the continent that we can already start to think about. In South Africa, they're doing something called sort of peer-to-peer insurance, where they're allowing you to sort of insure your possessions by just taking a simple picture of it and being able to send it. And then you also have sort of young insurers, insurance companies that are coming in and having the conversation with you. I know that in Kenya, I'd seen something around partnering with universities, the CIC Insurance Group. So they basically go straight to the university, right? And as early as a young person, right? You're not when you're sort of thinking about the end of your life, but as a young person in university, you're already plugged into this culture of insurance. I think there's so many additional tools I could go on, and they're really across the continent already happening. They're happening at a relatively small scale, and I think that there is actually really an opportunity for us in Namibia to see how we can be sort of sector leaders in that space, because you know, to the points that were made earlier, we are doing a lot better than peers. I think KPMG released a report where they showed sort of the Africa the penetration in insurance, and you had sort of the Africa bubble here. And then they said, if you sort of have Africa excluding South Africa, and the bubble just sort of drops drastically. So we're moving, you know, something sort of, I think it was like 0.5% or something, moving from something like 2.5% when South Africa was included. But then still outliers you had were Mauritius, Namibia, you know, still somewhere up there. So I think what this shows is that we already have sort of the advantage in terms of the knowledge, the literacy, the familiarity with insurance, but we're not really leveraging technology in the same way that some of our peers in Ghana and Kenya are doing. So I think for me, what we really need to do is put our money, right, and our investments behind innovation. What are our innovation budgets actually looking like? I think you know, it's one thing to sort of have a passion for innovation, but these things have to be fueled by financing. And I think that, you know, organizations like the African Development Bank, as we've mentioned, but indeed the insurers themselves can partner with the rest of civil society and the academia as well to ensure that we actually have more education and more impact in this space.
Thank you very much, Vivian, for that wonderful answer. I will ask the team to just drop everyone's LinkedIn in the chat so that the audience members can connect with us and also ask us any questions offline, because we have unfortunately come to the near end of this wonderful time that we've spent. And before I close, I would love to implore the audience to think about volunteering. Dive into insurance, which is essentially an outreach that was launched as part of the Dive In Festival last year. Again, partnering and promoting diversity and inclusion within the insurance sector. So there was partners with organizations such as the Switch, ELBA, SEO, and the Read Society. And the program essentially connects industry professionals with educational institutions, as Vivian was rightly saying, to support the next generation. So by offering volunteering opportunities to individuals, teams, and organizations, this initiative really wants to focus on developing employability skills, mentoring, and education to attract diverse talent and foster innovation within the insurance sector, which I think speaks directly to the first question that was asked to Patty about how to work with her company. So please definitely take advantage of this volunteering program and change your career around and potentially enhance your life. So ladies and gentlemen, it's been such an honor to lead you through this groundbreaking, one-of-a-kind, first-of-its-kind event in Namibia, the Dive In Festival coming to Namibia for the first time in history. It's been such an interesting conversation, hearing from our speakers, and really understanding their perspectives on what the Namibian insurance sector has to offer, understanding the challenges, understanding the opportunities, and understanding the way in which the government has been supportive of the private sector. So for me, I'm inspired to see what can happen in Namibia, this wonderful country that has been described by the three women on this panel. So I'd love to thank Suzan Pardesi, Vivian Ojo, Patty Karuaihe-Martin for taking the time to join us for this incredible one-of-a-kind, first-of-a-kind Dive In Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Festival brought to you by Aon. Again, my name is Lehlé Baldé Cameron, and it's been a pleasure. Please do connect with us on LinkedIn, and looking forward to continuing this very important conversation. Thank you to our audience. Thank you to the Dive-In team, the sponsors of this event. We couldn't have made this happen without you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.